So recently I did this video about Gen Z's best financial advice, and in it talks about this book called Woke Budgeting. So today I'm going to be doing a review of this book. So Woke Budgeting, I actually went and got out this book from the library, and I'm just going to go through the book and tell you some of the things that I found interesting. So first of all, the first thing that I noticed is that the book is extremely small. So if you look at it from the side, the book is very, very thin. It's only around 100 pages long. The name is also interesting. So what does woke budgeting even mean? Like, for example, what does woke even mean in this particular context? Is it some sort of politically correct way of budgeting, maybe? I don't really know. The tagline of the book itself is also interesting because it says here, thrive financially without being a boomer with 11 rental properties. Now, personally, I don't have 11 rental properties, so I'm pretty interested in seeing what the book actually says. So personally, I wanted to know how a young person like the author of the book, which is around 25 years old, managed to buy 3 properties without their parents' help. Now, I want to see if there's anything that people can really learn from in the book. Now, the book itself only has 4 chapters, which includes budgets, be smart with money, buying a house, and other tips and tricks. But I mean, it doesn't really matter how many chapters or how thick the book is, as long as it's got useful information. You don't actually need to have a lot of chapters. For the first chapter of the book, it talks about budgeting. So it suggests that we should calculate all our bills and then subtract it from your income that you earn and split the rest into a pool where 25% goes into your spending budget, 25% goes into your short-term budget account, which are small things like maybe a computer or a laptop, and 50% goes into a long-term savings account, which you could be used for purchasing a house. And so far so good. These are all pretty good advice. The other thing that it suggests is to try save on bills by comparing companies every single year. And this is also good advice because I used to work in the telecommunication company, and the monthly fees for different accounts often get adjusted over time. And these telecommunication companies won't actually notify you if you are being charged on an old plan and you're actually paying more than you need. So this is something that you actually have to check yourself. They're not gonna check for you. And this is something that kind of really annoyed me, because quite often you have customers coming in and they'd be like, well, we've been charged like this fee for ages, and then they had this new plan that's a lot cheaper. And honestly, there's nothing that you could do about it. So be sure to constantly check your plans, to compare them to new plans that have come out, to see if you can get a better deal. The next thing that the book suggests is to wipe out any bad debt. Sometimes this requires a consolidation debt, by consolidating multiple debts into one debt and then just pay off that single debt. So far, this is also good advice. So 2 out of 2. Literally, this is the first chapter. The next chapter is be smart with money. So it talks about reducing credit card debt and having an emergency fund, and change your spending habits so that you don't spend as much as you earn. The author also talked about getting more money by asking for raises, or getting a new job, or even doing a side hustle. Now, so far, these are all tried and tested advice, but that doesn't really explain how he went on having debt to owning multiple properties. So let's get into the real meaty part of the discussion, which is chapter 3, buying a house. Yes, surprise, surprise, there's a chapter on this book called Buying a House. Now, I find this kind of ironic, since the tagline is literally saying to not be a boomer with 11 rental properties. Now, the author mentioned that in order to purchase their first property, they had to move in with his parents for a while in order to save some money. Now, this is not a terrible thing by any means, but this is definitely not buying a house without any parental support. Now, sure, they may not be given specifically any money from their parents, but you're gonna save on rent and maybe a lot of convenience. And again, if not everyone can just go and randomly stay with their parents. So now let's talk some numbers mentioned in the book. So they have $20,000 saved up to use as deposit along with the amount that they have in their KiwiSaver. And they bought a unit that's worth $380,000. So after 1 year's time and spending around $8,000 on renovation, they resold the unit for $504,000. This is $124,000 more than what they have bought the unit for. Now, this is a 15 times return, not accounting with fees, of course, for the amount that they spent on renovation. Now, even when accounting for the fees, you're looking at probably like a 10 times return. With the money that they got, they immediately went and bought a house, their second house after selling their first house, for $530,000. I'll tell you what, investing in housing is much more profitable than investing in shares or even crypto in New Zealand, like especially around the past 2 years or so. And guess what? They even got flatmates to help pay for the property. So much for not being a boomer with rental properties like what its tagline suggested. Anyways, after 11 months, they resold that property for $835,000, which is $300,000 more than the amount that they bought it for. So they bought it for around $500,000 and they sold it for more than $800,000. And that's how they went from having around $20,000 to having around $300,000. Now, they basically had a very, very favorable housing market while doing renovations, and basically they had really, really good timing over the past couple of years. So look, I have no problem with people making money from property investments. There's nothing wrong with that. But see, making fun of boomers making money from rental properties, like what the title, the bottom tagline suggests, is kind of hypocritical, considering that's exactly how they got most of their money, like in the first place. Like, sure, they might have done side hustles, they had a job. Tons of people have jobs, and many, many people have side hustles, but properties is where they got their money from. And to me, there's nothing woke at all with this book. So as a financial book, I think this book has really failed because it doesn't even acknowledge the fact that they're in a very, very specific market and they actually made out incredibly well because they were in that particular market. And this is more just a book of a personal anecdote of how, someone pretty much got in at the right place at the right time. And sure, it has sections that talks about compounding and KiwiSaver, but let's be realistic, that is not how they made their money. Like, that is absolutely not how they made their money. So I'll be trying to go through some more books on the topic. Subscribe if you find this information helpful, and I will see you next time.